All right, enough delays, chat. We are watching Avenger 1's video. It's called Star Citizen, What We're Losing. This is in relation to Master Modes. Everybody's saying this is a based video. You got to watch this, so on and so forth. Avenger said you're going to, like, he sent it to me, said you're going to want to comment on this. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. I'm going to say this before we jump into anything. If you're a poker player and you've heard of leveling other players, out-leveling players, it feels like that's what CIG is doing instead of out-skilling with your joysticks. And that could be good, and that could be bad. And to people like Avenger, that's going to be catastrophically bad. So, because of what they've fallen in love with, right? So let's see what he has to say, though. Long intro. I'm sorry.
Welcome back, everyone, to another video. Today, I'd like to have a very serious discussion about the current state of Star Citizen's Master Modes, and quite frankly, give my opinion.
Whoa, he's in the Idris briefing room.
But also show facts, evidence, and give testimony and results to what we actually have going on with Master Modes, and perhaps some solutions to the questions and problems that the new modes bring up. Star Citizen is at a critical point in its development and in its health. And I think strongly that we deserve to understand everything going on with Master Modes, and we need to have our input very clearly put out, and that you as the general public and as a backer deserve to understand what we are losing with the live model and what we are gaining with Master Modes, and what we have been told we're gaining with Master Modes and what we're actually getting.
Okay.
I want to build a universe. I want to build a game I always wanted.
Imagine going back to this fucking clown video and thinking we're getting any of this stuff. Bro, I can't do this anymore. I can't look back at anything they've said and believe that they're going to do any of it anymore. Like, it's so frustrating. How old is this video? This is the original pitch. How old is Star Citizen? That's how old this video is, right? So this was the original pitch video. I am a PC game. Sandy at a Chinese bar citizen saying, do you want to play Squadron 42 on a console or on PC? What the hell, bro? So, the idea of things changing is going to be the theme the moment they actually start making the game, because they have not really started making the actual gameplay of the game until more recently. The theme of Star Citizen is you looking back at what you thought it was going to be and finding out that it's not going to be that. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying it's going to be a thing, and people are going to find out that this is either the game for them or not for them. Myself included, Avenger possibly as well. And it's going to be really sad in some moments, and for some things, it's going to be really awesome for some moments in other things. But that is 100% the reality of what we're dealing with now, is the moment they actually try to do these things and either realize they're not fun, they can't do them, you know, or whatever. Some of the thoughts that you had about what Star Citizen will not be. And that sucks, right? Because this video, the original pitch, was not what we have now.
Build, but I didn't have the tools to do until now.
This is also, the video's really low.
Carrier fighting a heroic war on the front lines, but also one that you can muster out and find your own fortune in the stars wherever your spaceship takes you. I want to be able to share this experience with my friends and fight against real opponents in space, not just AI. And fight against real opponents in space, not just AI. I mean, real opponents in space, not just AI.
I don't know why he's repeating that. That's going to happen.
Good or better than any other game out there, and I want to actively push the boundaries of what you can do in a game.
The reason I chose this clip is to remind everybody that PvP is going to be part of Star Citizen's gameplay, whether you like it or not, right? And that is not a bad thing. Player versus player encounters in Star Citizen are some of the best, most engaging, adrenaline-pumping encounters you could possibly imagine. Better than any AI system, and surely better than any mission set that you could get. Playing against other players.
For you. For me too. But we also have to recognize that not everybody wants to do that. Right?
Players is the best of Star Citizen. But in order for player versus player...
What's he reading from? From his screen. From his screen, man. You think everybody can just have a fucking teleprompter? What?
Player and the gameplay itself to actually achieve that. We need to have a deeply engaging and deeply skill-based gameplay that actually facilitates that experience. What we have in the live model is not sufficient for the long-term health of Star Citizen. That I agree with. However, there are things about the live model that it does better than master modes, including the fact that the skill ceiling is higher for the live version than master modes. We were told that master modes was the great balancer, that master modes would allow ships to fill themselves into roles. But what we ended up getting was a lot of ships being pigeonholed into specific categories and allowing skill.
Isn't pigeonholing a ship into a specific category a role, though?
To be the least amount of the calculation. In the live model, I can take something
because I think he's making
the
a
least
different point.
amount of specific categories fill themselves into roles. But what we ended up getting was a lot of ships being pigeonholed into specific categories and allowing skill to be the least amount of the calculation. In the live model, I can take something like an Aurora with 2 bulldogs and sufficiently shoot down and kill ships that are in categories above mine, say Gladiuses or Hornets. In master modes, it doesn't really matter how good you are. The skill check is not there.
Okay.
This is due to 2 reasons. 1, the flight component to our dogfighting game has been removed. Our speeds have been lowered so low that the flexibility and engageability of fighters has been removed so that only ships within certain classes and roles are able to engage ships in other classes.
Okay, all the people that I see in chat that are saying Avenger 1 is very stuck to what he thinks is right or what he likes now, so on and so forth. Anytime I've watched one of the videos, he's already made this. The video he's about to make, he's already made. And that is the idea of I'm okay with the speed slowing down, but they need to speed up from what they are at now to give that skill ceiling again. I think is what he's saying. So,
for example,
or what he's going to say.
If our speeds are set to 200 meters per second compared to the live version where speeds were set to 1200 or more, we have lost our ability to push-pull. We have lost our ability to lead turn. We've lost the ability to what's called hook around our opponents. And we've also lost our ability to manage multiple engagements at the same time, so that ships in smaller or weaker categories are still able to compete against ships in higher categories based on your pilot's skill. In master modes, this has been removed for our benefit. This is something that I believe, and a lot of the people in the PvP community believe as well, is wrong. I understand that the claim that master modes brings fights together is also wrong. Master modes, in fact, has fights happening at longer ranges most of the time.
Yeah, because your weapons can actually hit at longer range now.
Due to 2 reasons. 1, weapon velocity at such obscenely high levels allows for no reason to get any closer because the lead angle between your fall of shot and your target is so thin that you can engage at 2,000 meters. Secondly, because of the lack of top speeds, you're not able to string out or elongate the fights as much as you used to be able to, which in some regards may be better and beneficial to some, but the results in excessive jousting, which it just ends up having fights continuously going back and forth like a seesaw motion because you don't have enough top speed to actually disengage the fight. So the claim that Master Modes brings fights closer together is just simply not true. The experience that most of the player versus player pilots that I play with on a daily basis, including others from other communities, are finding the same result, that longer distances with saturation zones and excessive jousting are the result of low turn rates and low speeds. We don't have the flexibility or the zone space to actually make maneuvers or do any kind of aerial combat. Instead, we're playing a small game of chicken where we're trying to get a position to some degree where we can outnumber the opponent, put an excessive amount of damage with almost hit scan weapons on them, and then move to the next target. I released a video not too long ago about a Vanguard engagement in Atmosphere, and as it clearly showed, the flight component to that engagement was almost non-existent. At no point was I flying around at any kind of meaningful speed. I was crawling around at 50 to 100 meters per second and just turreting in space and pulling my nose onto the targets and shooting. I don't know about you guys, but when I sign up to fly a fighter, I want to feel like I'm flying a fighter. If I want to have a capital experience, I'll step on board a capital ship. But why am I getting a capital experience in a heavy fighter? Why are my speeds so low? Is it to reduce jousting? Which is not true. Jousting is actually more prevalent in Master Modes than it is in Live. And jousting obviously comes from a lack
Harbinger
of one
is not a fighter?
or two things.
Yes, it is.
Knowledge of the space and skill and application of movement. So we can either make a choice to tell people to learn how to fly so they can better get into proper positions, or we can dumb the game down and reduce the skill ceiling so
340 meters per second is Mach 1. 100 meters per second is super fast. Maybe it's a feel thing, but I'm largely feeling what he's feeling, and I barely have played Master Modes. Especially when you are in like squadron. I think everyone's playing squadron battle a lot now. And when you're being like double, triple teamed, there's nothing you can do. You die. So let's ignore everything here about skill, about the man on the screen that you clearly don't like, some of you in chat, because you have, issues with him from previous times, clearly. Let's just think about a game that has permanent death and a situation where you have very little opportunity to survive, to maneuver, right? And all that stuff. Like, for me, that's like a, what the heck is going on here? It was just, I might as well just stand here and die because there's no point in even trying in the squadron battle fights. Like, I know I'm bad. Parachutes, escape pods. How many ships have ejectability? How many ships can you eject on? The Vanguard can't, right? There's a lot. Not enough have it. Almost all fighters. So what about ships that aren't fighters? That are absolutely going to be involved in combat at some point. What do you do then? Right? So I largely agree where this is not a better system. It's just a different one. And to some degree, it's worse. And to some degree, it's better.
So low that there is no need to fly at all. And we now have our arcadey space shooter since, I don't know about you guys, but that doesn't seem like the kind of exciting experience I was promised since I started backing this project. And
the word promise is never good, but he always said World War II dogfighting kind
that the majority
style.
of players in this game will get bored of Master Modes very quickly. I can say for myself and a lot of the other PvP community that playing Master Modes is a boring, devoid experience of skill expression and flight control compared to the old model that we had. We are sacrificing the depth and engagement of the experience that we had for a casual arcadey 90s style shooter
I wonder if he'll address what they said on ISC. I'm assuming that's what this is about. They absolutely addressed that the 1v1s and light fighters they're not happy with.
Devoid of pilot skill.
Maybe the PvP community will have some turnover. It shouldn't. It shouldn't. Because that's the one thing that they should have gotten right. Because they had all the time in the world to do it. Because they had Arena Commander for years. They had the PU that was combat focused for years. And they still didn't get it right. So the only thing that shouldn't have turnover is the one thing that was in game this entire time, and that's ship combat. Okay?
And replaced with a DPS calculated weapon and ship choice RNG mechanic.
Everything else
very
is going to have
similar
turnover.
to EVE Online. If that is the choice that you want for the future of Star Citizen, then by all means, rep master modes as hard and as fast as you can. But if you feel like me and you want to understand that we're losing the most important skill-based design choice of all time in Star Citizen, and that is the flight component of a flight-based space game, then please listen to the suggestions I have, and please understand that it comes from a place of love and hope that Star Citizen can be the best game it can be. I am not asking for DCS in space. And I am not asking for a game that is only accessible by the most advanced controls. The truth is the live model is accessible by all controls. Double sticks are a popular one. Stick and HOTAS is a popular one. Mouse and keyboard is still popular and still played at the highest levels. The result of the live model is that most people could not access the higher levels of gameplay because it was too difficult. And that is a result of two things. One, poor education tutorial management from CIG, which is acceptable considering it's a game and
I don't know about all that.
Development. And two, the lack of willingness and desire from the community to understand the game at a deep level.
Nobody should have to obsess. This is totally off base. This is such a bad response to this. I'm sorry. That is so bad. I'm going to try, because I really love Avenger, I'm going to try to come up with a way of disagreeing respectfully, but I'm struggling with it. Because what you're telling everybody is to obsess about this game the way the PvP community is obsessed. And have spent a long time obsessing over this game and becoming as good as they are. As every top 1% of anything anybody does. Right? Unironically, what's the problem with that, though? Nothing. The problem is saying that if you do number one well and number two well, that you'll get to where I'm at. And in this model, I don't believe that's possible. Right? That's the difference. Is what he's implying here is that there's only two problems, and if you get good, you won't have any problems. And to some extent, he's right. You'll be a lot better than you are now. But you will not be beating Avenger 1. Right? You're only going to beat the players who run cargo and shoot at bounties. Right? So that's one that I'm really struggling with when he says that, because there's a lot more problems here than just that. I'm sorry, but flying at 1,200 meters per second and not being in control of your ship because I'm not good is also not fun. And I haven't been completely unwilling to learn, but I have not been willing to obsess. And I don't have fun either. Right? So I really hate this response. Like, absolutely despise this response. Because I think that there's a lot more problems that they're trying to solve. And yes, it has created more problems. And I think he should focus on that than telling players who have no desire to spend the sheer amount of time that some of these guys have spent in Arena Commander getting shit on over and over again. Because that's the only place to do it, really. I just can't. I don't know what else to say.
I have made literal career out of teaching people how to play Star Citizen. And almost every single person that has come through this Discord and received training and started to understand the game at a deep level.
Okay, and how many people was that? Right? How many people was that? And then how many people are actually playing the game? Right? You have to recognize that there's more people than just the 500 that have like come across the Discord probably and actually been actively willing to put the time in.
Has had a significantly better time at playing Star Citizen and the experience itself, because now they understand how to play the game better.
Exactly.
I realize that.
Do you serve the top 1% or are you serving the game overall? And I think most of this video is him serving the game overall. This is hurting his cause.
Not everyone is going to go rolling around looking at YouTube videos, but I feel like it's my responsibility to shake people's head a little bit and tell them very clearly that what we are losing is not worth it. We are losing too much with master modes.
Yeah, and I think he's
right
about that.
And there are ways that we can get around this. There are ways to keep the skill ceiling high enough that people feel engaged and excited to play the game for the long duration of Star Citizen's experience. If we let master modes bring the game down to EVE 2.0, we risk getting people's...
Which in no way is this EVE 2.0. Not even close. But I see what he's saying.
Excitement flatlined after a few months or a year playing the game. Because at some point you're going to want the deep experience. At some point you're going to want to spend hours and hours mastering a ship that you love, because Star Citizen is the game that you play every day. It used to be like that with the live model. And I realized that some people thought the skill ceiling was too high. So let's make a compromise. Let's find a speed that works for both the high skill ceiling and deep engaging player base, and also the general public, so that they can get their casual experience and get some results out the gate. And not
and this is where he's 1,000% right. Is what CIG tends to do is overcorrect, and what he feels is that they've overcorrected. I can't say if they did or didn't, right? Because I don't know enough. I'm not going to say, I'm like Kanye. I don't have enough information on that to speak on it, or whatever he said, right? So like, I'm going to leave that alone. I don't know if that's true or not. But what he's saying is that there's got to be a compromise here, and he feels that they've overcorrected. And a lot of people are agreeing with him. Therefore, this doesn't feel like what some people are saying in chat, like Avenger can't get out of his own way, things like that. I don't think that's the case at all. I think that's exactly what he's doing. He's saying, let's make a compromise here. Let's make sure everybody's happy. We can do this. Right?
Not feel like they're being put in a hot frying pan with nowhere to go and no tutorial and no training. I realize that the new player experience can be difficult and scary.
Avenger beat up my mom and stole my car, but I still agree with him. Okay. Interesting.
But it is our responsibility as a community to pull together and help educate each other. So, with that being said, let's look at solutions to the problems that we have in master modes and ways.
I mean, it's comparable to when you all brought Age of Shadows and changed combat dramatically and made it more accessible. All the wolves got upset about, and that mages didn't dominate everything anymore. Yeah, and in general, it made combat, like, that's when I started PvPing a lot more, is when the new skills came in and there were, like, totally new builds and things were crazy. But Ultima Online is very similar to EVE, and very similar to, because I don't think I'm going to have the opportunity to explain what leveling means. And that's essentially what EVE is I know what you're going to do. So, okay, I'm at level 0. If I'm at level 0, I'm only thinking about what I'm going to do. So the example in poker is I only look at my hand and see that I have a pair and go, that's good. Right? And just go with that. Corpor. Energy Bolt or something. Corpor was Invas Flam. It was Flame Strike, right? So you like that Ultima line was cool, where you would see what spell they were. Oh, that was Calvas Flam. That's right. You would see what spell they were saying, and then you would react to it. It was super skillful, but it was just clicking buttons. It was omega skillful, but it wasn't skillful with a joystick or mouse and things like that, where this is. And I think what CIG is going for is a little bit more of the leveling thing, which is a good thing. But I do agree with Avenger that you need to still have this feeling of flight and being skillful there, right? So there has to be a compromise somewhere. But what I mean by leveling is you're only thinking about what you're doing if you're at level 0 or level 1, however you want to look at it. When you go above that level, you're thinking about what they're doing and what they're going to do and reacting to it. And then if it's level 3, they know what you're thinking about, so then you are reacting to what they're, and then you can just continue to, and then the people that are at the highest levels are, you know, I'm thinking about what you're thinking, and I know that you're thinking about what I'm thinking, so then therefore I'm thinking about this, and then so I do something, right? So that's sort of, yeah, chess essentially, right? And I think that's sort of what Master Modes is creating, and that's a lot more accessible and a lot more easy to start and difficult to master. But again, you're losing the flight side of it when that happens, because then it's just actions. I know that you're using these type of weapons, therefore I'm putting my power to shields. They know that you're putting power to shields, therefore you're going to have less power to your weapons. So I'm going to focus on whatever weapon goes through shields. So I'm going to use my ballistics, and, you know, that kind of situation, right? And is that interesting and engaging? Yes. But is it as interesting and engaging for the current people that came to Star Citizen for flight combat? No. And I think they need to deliver that. I think that is one of the few things that I think we can use the word promise on. That has to be a part of this. And if they don't deliver that, then that's sad.
That, in my opinion, would go a long way at making sure that the skill ceiling remained deep and engaging, but also gave a chance for people new to the game to still experience a wonderful Star Citizen that they signed up for. There's one thing that we were told. There is a problem with the live model. Why are multi-crew ships just simply not doing very well? This is due to two things. One, large vessels are big and easy to hit. In live, we had pinpoint accurate weapon systems, which means I could stay in a small fighter and just stay outside of the distance from him, because weapon velocities were the same on the big ship as they were on the small fighter, which means I could constantly stay out of range and he would never be able to hit me. That problem is fixed with Master Mode's cone fire. So there is no reason to reduce the speeds of hammerheads and other ships like that, or fighters, when the problem is already solved with saturation, with putting so many bullets down range that something is going to hit you. There are two ways to solve the problem of multi-crew ships.
Slow, though.
One, fix the ramming problem. When a small fighter rams a big hammerhead, the hammerhead should take almost no damage. That's number one. Number two, shield systems need to be updated. If I have a shield system on a hammerhead, make it simple, guys. Don't overcomplicate it. If I recharge 2,000 hit points per second and Gladiuses only do 1,000 hit points per second, then I need a minimum of 3 or 4 Gladiuses before I can even start to take the shields down on a big vessel. Problem solved, right? Third problem to be fixed: weapon velocities and saturation. We had a system back in the old model called fixed assist, which means that the bullets would be...
That shit literally saved my... I couldn't hit a thing until fixed assist came in.
Nudged to the proper solution, but the solution that was going on is not a predictive algorithm. The human brain can predict movement patterns. The system that Star Citizen's gunnery system used was not a predictive algorithm. It was just simply going based off the information that was being received at the time. Which means if a ship went into a very tight corkscrew, the system wouldn't pick up on the pattern that was being drawn. It would just simply aim at the perfect solution, and the ship would eventually be in a different spot than what the game thought that the shot place would take place. Thus, we have the problem with the infinite corkscrew, and we had ships staying outside of weapon range while still being able to hit, because the large cross section of something like a hammerhead could be easily applied damage from long range, and thus we had the light fighter meta, where light fighter groups would go around killing all the multi-crew ships, because the multi-crew ships would never be able to.
All right, I got to address this in chat. I'm reluctant to listen to somebody who'll talk to me for 20 minutes but did not spend 5 minutes to spell check their tests. Okay, well, I'm reluctant to listen to someone in chat who's going to make a comment like that can't possibly understand that you've been staring at the screen, editing for 5 fucking hours, and can't recognize that I might make a spelling error occasionally. I have spelling errors in my title, yet you're subbed to me, I have a spelling error on my live stream for 10 years, yet you're subbed to me and you watch my channel. Relax. You're being ridiculous. Come on, man.
To apply damage to the small ships. That can be fixed with cone fire like we have in master modes. And by increasing the velocity of turret systems on ships like Vanguards and decreasing the velocity and distance range of the fighters that are firing them. If you set the weapon distance on Gladiuses and light fighters to 1,000 meters, and you get the velocities of hammerhead guns to be a little bit faster, that means that the hammerhead can engage the light fighters at 1,000 meters, and the fighters have to engage the hammerhead at a distance where its weapons can be effective against the Gladiuses or other light fighters. So the problem...
I feel like we were killing good PvPers at like 2,000 meters in the hammerhead master modes test. In Atmo, though. In Atmo. So he might be talking about
with multi-crew ships being infinitely kited would be a thing of the past. That does not mean we have to switch to master modes. That problem is easily solved with cone fire saturation and the removal of fixed assist, which I've been suggesting to CIG for a long time now. My other suggestion is that we bring space combat or standard control mode speeds to 500. Weapon velocities at 1400, SCM speeds at 500, and most of the problems with the geometry of fights would be fixed overnight. For some reason, CIG seems extremely resistant to the idea.
It has to. Why not try it? Right? Because that's the thing. You can all say it's too fast, but you don't know if it is or if it isn't. Right? We have to try these things. That's why we have Arena Commander. So no matter what he says, whether you agree with it or not, you have to try it. Imagine thinking we didn't try these things for years. I don't care what you guys do internally. We're the ones who play it. You are making the game for us to play. And I know that in some situations, you guys are the ones that are going to make some decisions here. And this has been the problem with the internal development of master modes and everything this entire time for literal years when you could have been doing this with us for a really long time. I know there are pilots in the playtests that are actually good. I know Bayer's good. I know there's a lot of people that are good. But if you had when you have the opportunity to just give it a try, then why not? How about this? Why not just do it to shut people up then? Right? No, Mike, in all situations, they make decisions. They're the developers. Yep. And sometimes we're going to have to live with it. And it does, to me, sound like this one is one we're going to have to live with. But you can't get mad at somebody for saying, I think this will work, without allowing them to, like, when you had the opportunity to possibly let them try it. You know what I mean? And it's and you're never going to make the backers shut up. But I do think that that's like a little bit of a dangerous thing to say as a developer when, yeah, you do everything behind closed doors, and what you're delivering is not something that the people that you're delivering to enjoy. We got a problem here then, right? There might be something wrong in the system that we're using. Now, do more people enjoy it? It sounds like a lot more people enjoy it. But does that change what he's talking about, where it needs to have like a higher skill ceiling? Probably not. So, I don't know. Again, I'm sitting here not understanding any of this, but what I do understand is that developing everything behind closed doors for the flight model, which we've had 500 years to be able to work on, it was I think one of the biggest mistakes they made.
Idea of increasing speeds, and I don't understand why. Is it a decision from upper management?
Hannah said I was about to kill him yesterday and he ran, but I couldn't chase because I was in a fury. Would that change in master modes? Because I still think there'll be different top speeds for other ships, right? So I don't know if that would change in master modes anyway, but maybe.
If that's the case,
you can't run.
Why is that
easily,
being not considered?
Right?
Why are speeds going from 1200? Why can't they come down to 400? What's the issue? Why can't we even try it? See, like, and that's what really confuses me the most.
Why can't we try?
If CIG is so bent on having feedback, we give them feedback and then they refuse to try the feedback that we're giving them. The result is master modes is not working. It's not fun. It's boring. It's devoid of a lot of skill checks. And I feel strongly that increasing the SCM speeds to 500 would make a massive difference at making flight combat feel engaging and being able to hold energy. A lot of dogfighting has what's called high and low energy states. Typically,
yeah, I'm also confused. I just said with boost you're at 400 to 500. So then what would boost bring us to in these scenarios with what he's trying to bring?
On an atmospheric plane, you fly from high altitude and you build energy in a dive. You increase your speed on your airframe. You build up your energy in a dive like old World War II planes. You dive in, get behind somebody, take your shot, and with all the energy you've built up, pull up and disengage outside of their weapon range because you've got so much energy in that dive. You go from...
Did he not just say he doesn't want DCS in space?
High energy down to lower-ish energy,
sounds like DCS.
And you take all your energy and you leave with it, right? Planes like Mustangs in World War II were famous for this kind of behavior, the whole zoom and boom type stuff that we've been told. There are so many ways to make ships exciting and skill-based. And a lot of it has to do with the top speeds and the energy buildups. But
how is 500 a compromise? Because it's in between 1200 and 200, I guess. I don't know. I don't know.
If you drop speed so low like we have in master modes, and you increase accelerations to 20, 25 Gs, there is no building or taking away energy states because the energy state goes from 0 to 100 in half a second. Decrease acceleration slightly.
Wait, sorry, are you still able to pull insane Gs in master modes at the slow speeds?
Let us have more top speed to play with.
Okay, yeah, I don't understand, Panda, so I still don't understand.
Which means our maneuvers are more meaningful because we have to think about how we want to engage the situation and allow for fights to take a more organic aerial approach to them. Let people stay at high energy, then come down. The fact is, Master Modes doesn't solve jousting, and it doesn't solve high energy gameplay. People just click into nav mode and fly away instead of tricording. So that hasn't been solved. The problems that they have claimed Master Mode solves does not solve them. People still joust. People still run away. People still have all kinds of the same aerial problems. Because the reality is, people have had these problems since live, since all these other models, because it's the same problem. Lack of training and lack of awareness. So unless we are going to drop the speed so low that we don't have any flight component at all, and it just turns into a 3D shooter, then you're always going to have jousting. You're always going to have these problems because rookies will always have bad throttle control. If you're a rookie pilot, you're going to punch that throttle and you're going to go. And you're not going to realize how much energy you've built up in these turns. That's part of the process of learning how to be a better pilot. And we are losing that in Master Modes. We are losing the growth of the pilot and the player to learn how to take control of their ship. And we are going to lose a lot of the dynamics that make ships feel unique. For example, when you fly the Hawk in live, it feels much different than when you fly an M50 or a Gladius or an Arrow. That expression in flight control will be lost in Master Modes because so much stuff will get suppressed and so much things will have to become so much more monotone because we have a lack of space to differentiate between the fighters because now we only have a small envelope to move in. So they're either going to have to invent new gameplay mechanics to make ships feel unique, or they're going to have to understand that rookies are always going to make these flight mistakes. You're always going to have jousting. So the idea that Master Modes fixes these problems is just simply not true. And I also find it quite funny that CIG claims that people have been having a good experience with Squadron Battle.
And pretty positive around Squadron Battle, where there's some pretty good group combat dynamics players are reporting positively on. There's some really cool gameplay emerging, such as how players evade now is quite different. You have to drop chaff, break your target lock, break away, like find your opportunity to break away from your pursuing ship.
What we can see at the moment is that players are very happy with squadron battles. Players are not very happy with the 1v1, so this is more an area where we have to improve. Of course.
And I don't necessarily agree that that's the truth. I mean, there have been large groups of PvP people who've expressed the complete lack of interest in Squadron Battle. And so I wonder to myself...
Yeah, that doesn't look very good. It's like 5 comments and yeah, there's going to be a lot more positive. So what do you want them to think? Does your opinion, like what it really comes down to is does the opinion of the best pilots matter more than the opinion of many pilots? And I don't know in their eyes if it does or if it should. But unfortunately, the bad pilots or they don't know what they're doing either, right? So it's like, how much does an informed opinion matter more than an uninformed one? Right? So you have to weight the informed opinion more, but how much more do you weight it? And yeah.
The feedback that CIG claims to be taking, I sometimes feel like CIG may be listening in a bit of an echo chamber. Because the experience that I'm seeing is not...
They're definitely not, because I think it was really powerful to hear them say that Light Fighter's experience isn't good, which is a lot of what I think he's talking about here. And then 1v1 experiences are not very good, which is, I think, a lot of this positional, agile type of combat. So I feel like that's what they said there is they were like, hey, Avenger, hey, guys, we hear you, and we want to fix that. So, like, I really looked at this ISC as a very big positive, that they were like, yeah, we're not there yet, but we hear you. And I thought the PvP community was going to kind of praise this ISC from that perspective. Clearly not from this video, right? But maybe we were too focused on the idea that Squadron Battle was good and that, like, and then him feeling that it isn't. Just from the outside perspective, I was like, oh, that's nice that they addressed the fact that that 1v1s are not good. Because if 1v1s are not good, then inherently 2v1s are going to improve as well, right? So that's kind of big. Former top-level PvPers are just mad they lose the two things they were actually good in. But I think that's justified. Like, I think, yeah, the thing that they were good at was flying, though, right? And I think that the thing that you have to be good at now is aiming, right? So
line up with the experience that they claim is being said, that there's super positivity when it comes to Squadron Battle. Now, I could be wrong, but I mean...
But Master Modes didn't fix backstrafing. Not yet, at least. I know we just saw that recently, right, in Virgil's video.
I have a good ear with all the other PvP organizations and a lot of other people that play the game on a daily basis, and they're all very... How can I say this? Most of them are very interested in Master Modes evolving and evolving quickly because it's not working out. My fear is that players who don't understand what's going on will play Master Modes and have better results right out the gate, which is true. If you lower the skill ceiling, you're going to get better results right out the gate. But my worry is that because of this, they're going to claim that they've taken the feedback. And because now there are more people who've had a slightly better experience at the beginning, and they don't know what they're losing, that they're going to claim that the feedback's positive, which I think is a bit disingenuous. And it's clearly shown in their ISC video. If you're going to play a game for the better part of 10 or 20 years, the core experience has to be there.
That's right.
The world can be fleshed out.
The problem is the core experience of Star Citizen space combat? Space combat in a light fighter at high speed. I don't even think, chat, you're saying no. I don't think you can answer yes or no. Because I don't think we know what the core what the core experience of Star Citizen is. Right? I don't think we can answer yes or no. It's the core experience for him. That will not be the core experience for me. Right? I refuse for that to be the core experience for me. If that is the core experience of this game, I will very easily say 07, it was a good ride, I'm out, and Reddit will be incredibly happy, as well as Spectrum. But I imagine the core experience will be the choice of the player. And if I want to be a miner, I can. Oh, let's not forget the refund Reddit. Yeah. They'll be extremely happy. But the idea of it cannot be the core experience of everything, right? But it does feel like Master Modes we are losing something. And is it worth it? We will find out, right? But we need to find out with Master Modes in every ship, in the PU, with every single player experiencing it And we need to give it time. So the sky cannot be falling today. It can't. If you believe the sky is falling today, you might as well pack up now. You have to hope that they're going to listen, and that once it gets to everybody, that guys like Avenger and the rest of the PvP community find every little issue and expose the weak points, which they did with the previous flight model, which is why we're here today. And that took time. And then we fixed them. Right? And and like I said earlier in the React, this should have been done in Arena Commander 1.0, but it wasn't. And here we are. Right? So that's what we need, I feel like. I feel like we need to rip the Band-Aid off. This is Master Mode's Tier 0. And it doesn't look good from the high-skill, light fighter, dog fighting experience. Maybe even the medium and heavy doesn't look good, right? But it being Tier 0, do not praise that and don't say exactly Tier 0 like this is a good thing, okay? Because does anybody here watch Formula 1? Does anybody here watch Formula 1? If you watch Formula 1, you might know the reference I'm about to say. And there's Red Bull. So like Formula 1 is like, here is the formula to build a car. And then companies have to go and build these cars and then they race them. Okay? And there's rules. There's a rule set that you have to play within. And 2021 or 2022, I can't remember, was a new set of rules that changed everything. And the two biggest guys, Red Bull and Mercedes, one of them got it right and one of them got it wrong. And what they said is, we don't even have a good base to build off of, the people who got it wrong. What Avenger is saying is that to him, Master Mode's Tier 0 isn't something that we can really build from that easily. There needs to be a more monumental change to get it to where he thinks it needs to be. To him, yes, you can disagree with him. That's okay. Be respectful. Some of you are not being respectful in the chat. Be respectful. You can disagree. Be respectful. Because all we are just people on the internet sharing our opinions. Okay? This is his opinion. It may not be yours, and that's okay. All right? But his opinion is that it's not coming from a good... There's not a good platform to build off of. Where Red Bull had a really good platform to build off of, and now they appear where everybody should have caught up to them because of there's cost caps and you can only, test your car if you're the best for less time than the worst team and so on, that everybody should have caught up to them. And it looks like they had such a good platform to build off of that they're still way ahead of everybody because everybody's still playing catch up. To him, Master Modes is playing catch up. Right? I disrespectfully agree. I'll take it. Okay? And that's what he's saying. But whether that's the truth or not, I don't know. Okay? We'll see.
Politics and the bounty hunting and all the fidelity that Chris loves to talk about can be there. But if the fundamental experience is lackluster, it's not going to hold people's attention for any more than, say, a few years. I think we've seen this in many games. Now
to what he just said, there is the counterpoint, though, and that's exactly the experience that we have now. Right? The difference is that nobody engages in space combat because it's too difficult. So you get 0 years of engaging combat right now. So no matter what, something needed to change. So let's keep that in mind. That I have, and I would imagine many of you have no desire to try to learn because it's too difficult. Hey, Ando, I've tried to learn. I've tried to learn a lot, and it's not fun. It is not fun. It's overcomplicated. It's very hard, right? I've tried to learn multiple times. I've gotten better. I at times was better than most of the player base, probably still am. But at the same time, I'm still very bad. And that's not fun either. So let's keep in mind that most people aren't engaging at the level of space combat that Avenger's talking about because it's not fun. Not everyone's going to get to the top. I'm not even looking to get to the top. Like, I don't feel serviceable. I feel out of control of my ship at all times. I feel much more in control of my ship in master modes, and I think that's why people are engaging with it a little bit more, is you do feel more in control. But I've played Squadron Battle. That shit wasn't fun either, right? Because I had no ability to maneuver. I had no ability to avoid fire. It was just, oh, I'm going to die, right? I have not seen you spend 6 hours a day for minimum 6 months trying to learn equals no interest in combat. You better type a capper right now.
There's obviously a trade-off.
That's ridiculous.
If you have too high of a skill ceiling, you're only going to appeal to a very small group of people. But my argument has always been, let's find the middle ground.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I strongly believe that.
So he gets to the point that I'm trying to make, is there's got to be a middle ground from where we are today, where nobody wants to engage with it because it's too hard, to whatever he feels it is, because again, I don't know. So it's his opinion, and the middle ground has got to be in there.
The middle ground is around 500 meters per second, SCM speeds.
Why should I have to practice for 6 hours a day? If you're actually being honest, shut up.
Because
seriously.
That gives us the room to play and to feel like we're flying again. Now, I will say that
didn't I have fun training with Virgil? Did I do it for a year, or did I do it for a few weeks? Like, was it fun for a few weeks learning to get better, and then you fall off, you stop, and then you're back to square one? Because it's that much of a complicated system to get used to. And I'm moving 50 different axes. It's at the same time. I'm rotating. I'm doing this. Oh my God, I got to get it's a lot, man.
The invention of the boost mode in master modes, you know, the argument can be made that Avenger, we already have 500 meters per second. You just have to only stay there in boost mode. And
he's responding.
My answer to that is this. There is something that happens when I have to constantly press a button to fight against my speed in space. If I'm flying a spaceship, I shouldn't always have to feel like I'm pushing against the wind in space to feel like I'm going anywhere. And the result is the default movement of the fighter has to be competitive. It has to be there.
I agree with this.
If I have to rely on boost to do anything, then
fighters got to feel like fighters. You want to feel like a fighter. I agree with this.
What you've done is essentially make combat on a timer. So when I engage the enemy, I hold the boost down because I have to stay up. I have to stay faster than 220 meters per second. Because if I drop below that 220 meters per second, you're just too slow to make any meaningful maneuvers, and the weapons that you're going to get fired on are too fast to actually avoid. And so we run into this problem where if you're not under boost power, you're just simply dead, which means you hold the boost down until you're about 2/3 the way down your boost. And if you've got too many people shooting at you, you press the button into nav mode and you fly away. So the solution has now been offset to a button press. Instead of having a free flow flight experience.
Now he's spitting, because this absolutely has to be true.
Which can be tracked and felt natural with the flight control. Now you reach a limit, mode problem, and you click a button to switch into another mode. And it just, I feel like it wrecks the whole experience with flight.
I agree with that too.
And the thing is, we've tried this before. Back in 2018, we had cruise mode. And the community didn't like it. We didn't like being restricted to a button press to switch into a different kind of mode. And it just never, resulted in a great experience. And we've also tried Afterburner, where you have to press a button down to exceed the top SCM speeds. We've tried both Afterburner and cruise mode, and both of them failed the gameplay test. People didn't like them. So why all of a sudden now? Why are we going back to a mode that we know doesn't work? The solution to me is simple. Allow us to have the SCM speeds that make sense. Give us a little bit more speed when we afterburner and only in the forward direction so we can close distance on people. Allow us to have lower velocity projectiles for fighters. Slightly tighten the cone so it's not so egregious. Remove fixed assist entirely. End of story. On fighters, fixed assist should be gone. End of story. It should only focus on the cone fire for the weapon systems.
Just from a content creator standpoint, why is his face still on the screen with the text covering it? It looks so weird.
And allow large vessels to have a slightly larger cone, better velocity on their projectiles so they can apply damage and project their turret pressure to keep fighters away from them and keep them safe and meaningful in a battle space.
You notice he never mentioned missiles once.
And allow ships that are designed to kill big stuff like fighter bombers and larger vessels to stick to their lane to engage the bigger stuff, and rebalance the shield system so that it doesn't have an exploitable problem where if you hit one shield phase constantly, it'll go down. Just give capital ships a native shield resistance and a native shield recharge, regardless of whether they're taking pressure or not.
What do you think about this shield thing for cap ships, guys? I think that's like kind of a good idea, at least as a temporary thing until armor's in, right?
So that big ships like 890s
cool with that.
Will simply out-tank the DPS of ships attacking them, which means you're going to have to bring ships that are specialized to engage bigger vessels because you simply don't have enough DPS to drop the shields. And a lot of these problems would be solved. Oh, yes, and of course, fix the ramming problem where people ram big ships. If you fix that, it'll go a long way too. These are all my suggestions, guys, and it comes from a place of experience. I've played hundreds of hours of master modes. I have made videos about it in the best light I can to try to teach people how to do it. And honestly, my response to master modes is it's not healthy for the game. It's not the way we need to be going. It's not the future of Star Citizen that should be here. And I think that the old system did more things right than it did wrong. And that a lot of the lessons that we've learned in master modes like cone fire and the asymmetrical speed zones can be easily implemented into the live model. If we just drop the live model's top speeds down to 500, we'd have a significantly better experience.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I would just love to see what it looked like so nobody can be like, yeah, no.
At the very least, why don't we try it? Why doesn't CIG try the Avenger tuning? We can call it the A.
Because they did. I mean, it's obvious that they did. But if we don't get to try it, they can't really be upset at us if we think it might work. Like, imagine trusting CIG. I mean, come on.
Tuning, whatever you want to call it.
They haven't earned it yet.
But I ask and I implore CIG, please try the A1 tuning. So try 500 meters per second SCM speeds with 1400 meters per second weapons. Try higher velocity projectiles on multi-crew ships. Try removing fixed assist and tightening the cones. Try doing these things that I'm suggesting and let people play it and decide for themselves. I cannot live with myself in good conscience if I didn't put these options on the table for you guys to understand. And when Master Modes comes out in 2.23, I want every single one of you that's watched this video to try Master Modes and to think objectively about the future of Star Citizen. Because once CIG makes these changes and Squadron 42 comes out, it will be too late. Once Squadron 42 is out, whatever that game is, or has for its model, will be what we have for Star Citizen.
No, that's not true at all. Nope. Nope. I imagine that's already fairly locked in. And what we have could be entirely different. I don't agree with that at all. Everything about Star Citizen is going to be balanced and changed for many years after Squadron releases. I don't think that's the case at all. And then even if they do future Squadron games or whatever, they'll update the model from our experiences in the PU to make it more interesting and better. I don't think that's the case at all.
Of any kind of meaningful changes happening to the flight model will simply not be there. And so we have this one opportunity to try to convince CIG that the direction they're going with master modes is not healthy for the longevity of the game, and ultimately will result in a poor experience where they could have had a much more engaging, much more in-depth flight model that had a much more deeply engaging experience for the majority of the player base for the lifespan of Star Citizen, which could be over 20 years. Understand that I'm coming from a place of genuine love for this game. I love and respect the developers who've been putting their time in to work on this, and please do not take my suggestions with some kind of malice or ill intent. And I only want...
Of course they will. It's the internet. You have an opinion on the internet. You're egotistical. You're this, you're that. There's no avoiding that. So
what's enjoy best the for comments. The longevity of the game. And in my heart of hearts, I feel like the direction that CIG has gone has put us behind. And I feel like there's an easy way to get us back on track and to keep the skill ceiling high and to keep the gameplay experience that we want. And for Chris to get the game that he's been talking about since the beginning, which I've always supported since the original Kickstarter. I do not want to play an RNG mobile game. I want to play a deeply engaging space combat sim experience with a deeply engaging, beautiful, immersive world, like we were promised in 2016 when the original Kickstarter came out.
Sorry, I wish it was 2016.
Right, 2012. These are my 2 cents, guys. Thank you for listening. I hope this was not seen as a salty rant, but a genuine attempt at constructive feedback for the longevity of Star Citizen's experience. And whether or not CIG takes my words with any kind of sincerity, it ultimately comes down to you folks watching this video. I cannot do this alone. You all have to go to Spectrum, go to YouTube, and let your opinions about master modes be heard, for good or for worse. But do not sit by and say,
yeah, let's do that after they're in 323 is sort of how I feel. That's sort of what I feel like it has to happen. Let's actually try playing it first. You can now. Like this one's kind of ridiculous because like at the same time he's right, but I'm sorry, you can now. Do I literally live patch? Not only can you in a light fighter, you can in a medium fighter, you can in a heavy fighter, you can in a capital size ship. You can now. It's going to take 30 minutes to load. So in the meantime, we'll finish up the video. Yes, snub fighter as well.
Nothing.
So a lot of the categories they were talking about on
hangs in the balance, because what you do in these next few months will make the difference between whether Star Citizen lasts the year after Squadron 42 or the next 2 decades.
Nope. What they do after 323, I agree with that. Like what they do now in the short term is what will create that base that I was talking about with Formula 1. That will create that base to allow this game to exist for many, many years. I agree with that. Because they can't keep going back to the drawing board and completely scrapping things and starting over and over again. They got to find something that has a good base and stick with it. His argument is that the old model has a better base than the new model. That's his argument. You can agree, you can disagree. Okay? I think where we really start to get the move is 323 because they're sticking with it. Like, again, you can agree or disagree. They're going with master modes. There's no stopping this train. This train is going through this stop, and we're dealing with it. So it has to come with it all going into 323. We see everything that they've been working on, not this kind of half-baked thing that we have now. And they have to make adjustments relatively quickly over the few patches after that to make that base more solid. And if it's not, I'm going to largely agree with Avenger and say that we're kind of fucked. And the game's not going to be very fun. Because I have not enjoyed master modes from a combat perspective nearly as much. Do I hit more shots? Yes. I think. But casuals are definitely going to get killed faster with master modes, I think. Because it's a DPS race, and if you take away the aiming, you still have to be able to aim. But I think what the combat pilots don't want is it for just to be an aim race, because that's not very fun for them, because both of their aims are good. And then it's just a very... you ever play Star Marine, where right now, because there's desync, you just trade like way too often? Is that what it's going to be? It could be. But yeah, just kind of weird. So there's a lot that needs to be adjusted with this base. So, but let me just prove to you. Master modes Pirate Swarm, Master modes Race, Master modes Free Fly, Master modes Squadron Battle. Within that test, there's disclaimers. Yes, I understand. I can use the Gladius, the Hammerhead, the Vanguard Warden, the Hornet, the Buccaneer. There's your Interceptor, the Merlin, and the Constellation Andromeda. Okay? So you get all the opportunities. You can, and this is why he's telling you to give feedback now and let them know what you feel like now. I don't think this is stopping the 323 train, unfortunately. It's too late. So for me, I think 323 comes out. You got everything there, and you should be able to build from there if it has a good base, which he doesn't feel that way, and that is what it is.
Make the right choice. Understand where I'm coming from. Understand that we want what's best for the game, and that having a deeper skill ceiling is the way forward. And in my opinion, CIG should at the very least try the A1 tuning that I'm talking about, and let's see where the chips fall. I could be wrong, but let's find out. That was Avenger 1, guys. And I'll see you in the next video.
All right. Still, it's only a game. Games are really important to people, man. It's not only a game. Like, games mean a lot more to some people than it does to others, right? And I know he's a content creator, so it's like your livelihood, so it's like even more of a game than it might be for people who like really care about games. But people have been like playing games hardcore for years and years and years before content creation was ever a thing, you know? So I don't like that statement very much, but yeah. Whether it's a hobby or not, it still can be really, really important for it to be really, really fun. So I don't like that, but in the end, I think the 323 train is rolling, and I don't think it matters what Avenger 1 says. They're doing whatever they want to do, and that was the result of them going ahead and developing in Squadron instead of developing with us. And we'll find out if that was a good or bad thing. I don't know. Avenger thinks bad. I have no idea. Some people feel it's good. We'll just have to see. Because that's the reality now. But I do hope people give feedback, because they were begging for feedback, which tells you that the feedback that they currently have is still not a ton. Not a lot of people are playing master modes. So if not a lot of people are playing it, but you're happy with the feedback you're getting, is that feedback skewed? It might be. It might be. So that's what we got to see. It might be. So that's why I think 323 needs to happen, and then we'll find out how players are playing and if they're enjoying it throughout the actual PU play tests. We got to have it in the PU, period. Arena Commander's never going to do it entirely. So we'll see.